Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Morales with the High-Speed Rail Authority. First, let me say, should the committee decide to move ahead, I want to assure you we'll cooperate fully with the audit, should it proceed. As a general point, I want to note that our team has been very forthright about the cost of this program. We laid out, in fact, a $98 billion price tag, have worked to bring it back down to $68 billion and continue to bring that cost down. So I think any notion that we have been anything less than transparent about cost estimates, I think just isn't a well-founded suggestion. When you're talking about estimating cost of a 500-mile-plus system built over a number of years, there are any number of assumptions and inputs that have to go into that estimate. Lots of assumptions about inflation rates, not just today, but 5-10 years out, cost of construction, and then, of course, what the system elements are. How many miles of tunnels will there be as opposed to how many miles of viaduct and at grade, things like that. So there are lots of assumptions that have to go into this. When the article in question came out, we did respond quickly and provided information to the legislature, including the report that was noted. And the committee has a copy of that, and that was provided to the legislature as a whole back in November, and we've provided it to the committee again today. What was described in the newspaper article as a confidential report was, in fact, a draft PowerPoint early in the process, looking at some options of how the cost estimate might be developed. It was early in the process. It laid out some options, one of which was to extend a segment of the system by 16 miles. That accounted for more than half of the cost, and that's not a cost increase. It's a movement from one segment to another. We decided against making that change, and so the cost change didn't come into play. The other remaining issues affecting cost were all assumptions about elements such as, again, miles of tunnels and things like that. And through the course of deliberation, those changes were not ultimately accepted. In response to the information we provided to the Speaker back in November, there is a hearing now scheduled on January 27th with the Budget Subcommittee that will look into this issue. Lastly, I do want to just point generally on the whole question of cost estimation. A few years ago, the Federal Government Accountability Office, the GAO, spent almost a year looking into a number of our processes, including our estimation processes. They came to the conclusion that we were doing it all in accordance with standard practice, made no recommendations for changes. The peer review group, which is an independent entity reporting to the legislature, has also looked at our estimates, come to similar conclusions. And so I just want to assure you we're using standard procedures and are transparent, and I would be happy to answer any questions.